All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Serious Angler podcast, episode number 196. As always, I'm your host, Bailey Egbert, and joined by the captain, Mr. Andy Full. What's going on, dude?
Not a whole lot. I can't believe we're 4 away from our 100th episode together.
Yeah, the fat 200.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Big milestone, dude. Huge milestone.
It's crazy.
But
who would have thought? Who would have thought?
If you asked me when I started this thing at like episode 13, I'm like, wow, I really suck with this thing. And I would not picture I'd be on episode 200, about to have on a guy who is technically a country away, but is like, what, maybe 4 hours from us. So we're going to talk smallmouth fishing, my favorite thing in the world.
Yeah. 3. Yeah, it's probably like 3.5 from me, maybe 5 from you.
Right. Yeah, we're having on Mr. Stephen Hegarty. For some reason, dude, last names have been just screwing me up lately. But
that's fair.
Yeah. So we checked with Stephen before this, but it's going to be fun today because obviously he's from Canada. Canada's got some interesting rules when it comes to seasons and everything. We're going to dive into that a little bit and talk a little bit about a bunch of different stuff, smallmouth fishing and kind of his story, his tournament timeline. But I wish we could have been talking about updates on Pickwick today, but unfortunately, day one is canceled. Obviously, today's Thursday. It goes on Friday. Sounds like Friday is canceled as well.
It is canceled. So today, when you're listening, today has been canceled. It looks like they're trying to go Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and possibly even Tuesday. And they're working on it with the TVA. My understanding is they're trying to find another launch to launch out of that isn't going to be flooded, because tomorrow, where the event was planned to go out of, it's going to be probably 2 to 3 foot underwater. So I think that's part of the issue with it. Yeah, so they're trying to find another spot from the launch that's safe. So it's probably going to get moved down river more towards Pickwick Dam as opposed to where they are now.
Yeah, isn't it going to be pumping like 250,000 CFI or something crazy?
I don't think it's supposed to get that high. I think like 202, but at 202, it's 3 foot above flood level or 4 foot above flood level, which right now is at flood level. So, but they're hoping they can pull enough water out, from what my understanding of it is, to get it down to a manageable level for Saturday through Monday or even Tuesday. They're going to catch them. It's muddy water. The water's warm. They're going to catch fish. It's just, can they go? And there was people out there fishing today. So I think if the wind didn't happen, they would have went today.
The wind? I think their only concern, well, I shouldn't say only, but probably their biggest concern is like debris in the water, like what happened at Chris Grow at the Tennessee River. That's probably what they're really worried about.
Yeah.
With all that debris, that rising, that flooding water, that brings up a lot of debris and kind of tosses it around. It floats out mid-river, and guys are running where they think it's safe, but next thing you know, there's a giant log.
So if you don't avoid Saturday, it will be canceled. And I think if they don't go Saturday, it will be canceled. And I think they're really trying hard to get it in Saturday. And based on all the graphs I've seen for water release, it looks like the water will start to recede sometime Saturday. So they're probably going to go Saturday.
That would be cool, because obviously this is a super interesting event for the elites. So, I mean, no one's really seen a Pickwick at this time of year. I don't know, at this stage. So that's why it's so interesting, because usually it's just a ledge fest and not much of it plays.
Spawn fest, yeah. So it's cool. It's going to be interesting. If that water does recede and the water clears up at all, there might be some spawners in the back of those creeks, but it depends on how cool that water was from the runoff. And the water, like I think today's high was only 56. So, and it's not supposed to get above 70 all weekend.
All right. One thing we failed to mention was this past weekend was obviously the inaugural event for the NPFL. So huge congrats to John Sukup on the win. We've been talking with John about getting him on the show here soon. We're not bombarding him with he's going to be on every single show. We already been on a crazy amount of them. When things die down for him,
we try not to copy anyone, but we try to give some people some space. So
yeah, we kind of take the approach of like we know you're gonna be on everyone's show, but like when things quiet down for you, come on ours, and we can just have a relaxed night, talk fishing, get into a little bit, try to get some outside the box questions for him, and then because I thoroughly enjoyed listening to him on I think it was the Anglers channel one that he was on, and obviously they've done episodes already with a few different like Wired to Fish I think might have done an episode. But also that congratulations to John Cox on his win at Smith Lake for the Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit. Dude's an animal. I don't think there really needs to be any explanation on what went down there.
no.
They got John Cox, and that's probably about all you can leave.
So should we get Steven on here?
Yeah, I was gonna say enough about fishing down south, and let's talk more about the north. Let's have him on here, Mr. Stephen Hegarty. What's going on, dude?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good.
How is the old weather in the Great White North?
She's starting to warm up a little bit, but she's still been cold. Most of the lakes around us still have ice all over them, so.
Jeez. So, like, what's your daily temp? Like, where are you reaching?
Today was plus. Yesterday was up to like 9 degrees.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's like 48, 50, right? Ish.
Yeah. So.
We're talking Celsius?
Yeah.
I was gonna say 9 degrees. I was like, he wasn't that mad about it. I was like, what the heck?
Positive 9 is a good thing in Celsius.
Yeah, as long as you're above 0, it's good.
Yes.
But I think it was Monday morning. It was minus 20 when I started my truck.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so that sucked.
Pretty
So
cool.
what is that, Andrew? Less than 10 degrees Fahrenheit?
Well, yeah, I think minus 20, that'd put you down to what, like single digits, like 3 to 5, right? Ish range.
Yeah,
like,
I think so.
Right?
Yeah.
The Celsius conversion.
Yeah.
Isn't it weird how like the United States just like has their own system and they're just like don't care about whatever the rest of the world uses? So it's like mad confusing for us and like everyone else is like understands ours.
Yeah.
So I feel like an idiot talking to anybody else outside of the country.
It's funny. So up here we use feet and inches in residential construction, but we use meters and millimeters in commercial construction.
What?
Yeah.
So confused.
Well,
I would definitely be the guy to screw all that up.
And it's be like the way the buildings are framed, because commercials tends to be like steel. So there's a certain distance you have to do with the steel, and then residential is wood based. So you probably use more of a standard platform by inches. So the way they frame it out.
Yeah.
It's got to be a way to drywall. You must be importing the drywall from the United States, so that's why it's like that.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's just funky. The fact that we're so close and yet there's so many differences.
Well, as soon as you go to the bridge, you go to kilometer an hour, and the U.S. is miles per hour. So even that throws people off.
Yeah.
At least your car has like the kilometers per hour though, like in small lettering on your dial. So like when you go up into Canada, you can like squint at it and be like, okay, yeah, we're going the speed limit. We're good.
I've gotten a few speeding tickets driving through the States, so
they don't let you go because you just don't understand like the what jerks. Jerks.
Like I'm 55. Like
I think I was doing like 77 with the boat behind me.
Oh. In a school zone. They've been watching too much Super Troopers 2, so they're taking it personal.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Well, like not only that, but like you guys have a big difference in like when it comes to seasons and stuff. We kind of briefly touched on offline here, but like you guys can't fish until, or can you fish right now once the ice opens up?
No, like not bass. Bass season around me opens third weekend in June.
Oh man.
So
there's like zones, Bailey.
Sorry?
There's like 3 or 4 different zones, and they all have different like catch and release regulations and stuff like that, right?
Yeah. So Kawartha Lake's open third weekend in June. Simcoe opens the fourth weekend in June. So like that, even though they're close, it's a week behind. It's all over the place. And now we have an open season from basically January 1st, I think, until mid-May. May 10th, I believe, is the last day this year.
So basically, are you just like pike fishing with a Ned rig for like a couple months or what?
No, if Erie's even remotely fishable and I'm allowed to cross the border, that's what I'll do.
Grinder.
Yeah, so typically, like, by the time we get our rigs out from storage and the ice is kind of starting to melt and you can get out fishing, I'd say it's probably like the start of May by the time we make it out on Erie, roughly, depending on the year. And then we drive to Sturgeon Bay first week in May. So get out there for almost 10 days on the water.
So how long have you fished that Sturgeon Bay open?
I think I've been 5 years. Obviously missed last year with COVID. And we'll miss this year as well. The border won't be opened up in time for us to get across.
And you could technically go across, right? But when you come back, you have to quarantine for 14 days.
No, I don't think that they'll let you just cross for
a tournament.
Yeah, it won't be enough of a reason to go across.
Gotcha.
I mean, they let the Johnstons and Gussie cross over just fine. You could say that it's part of your income, so it's part of your work.
I think that they have a little bit of an easier time proving that than I would.
You just gotta be like, I'll come back with the check. It's proof.
Then they'll ask me for all the taxes on
it.
Yeah. Good grief. We kind of have something like that in New York. Like most of our lakes, you can target bass year round. Catch and release or keeping is like kind of the season, but we're still out of target out of season. But we have a couple, what do we call it? Counties, Andrew? That's
counties.
The county, yeah. So the counties don't let you up north, like Lake Ontario, East Lake Ontario, or St. Lawrence. Mm-hmm. So you get guys that joke around that be like, "Hey, you want to go up in Ontario and pike fish?" And they'll wink at you, and we're like, "Yeah, we'll go with spinnerbaits for pike." So that's why I joke about that. But I don't think anybody's actually really done that. At least they're probably not stupid enough to talk about it.
Yeah, I think if you were to get caught, it would be pretty serious.
Yeah, I don't know why they don't open it. Those fish spawn so much later than anywhere else too. By the time the season opens, they're usually like full-fledged spawning by that point. Yeah. So it's like counterproductive in my eyes, but whatever.
Yeah, I think like with our new season being open there, it'll give us it'll definitely give the fish time to spawn. It'll protect the spawn a lot more, but it also took like probably 2 good weeks of fishing away from the anglers. Now that we get to fish them earlier, but I mean for Lake Ontario, there's no telling what you're going to get,
right?
When you can get out or if you can get out.
Yeah, especially on your side of the lake, right? Because the southwest winds, it could be flat calm on our side, but on your side, you could have 4 to 5 foot rollers from the winds. So,
no thanks. Yeah, it's like both sides are wanting completely opposite winds, and so like if we get a good win, we're out fishing. You guys are stuck at home, and if you guys get a good win, you're out, and we're stuck at home. Yeah. It's almost like a tug of war, essentially, with the wind between Canada and the United States. But dude, before we get too deep into the show here, obviously, I would love to hear how you got started bass fishing in the first place, and who instilled the passion in you.
I started kind of late. I was coming home from college, and
you there, Steven? Uh-oh. Dang Canadian internet. Stevie, it's not the greatest face he's stuck on here.
If you had any enemies, you would get
We'll have to freeze frame this. Take a screenshot.
Should I remove them and bring them back in?
Yeah, you can try doing that. Yeah, no, he's gone. He's like, nobody wants to hear my story.
Well, I'll text him real fast, but we'll wait for him to kind of pop back into the screen down there. Give me 1 second.
Yeah.
But anyway, I was gonna bring up we're talking about the whole Canadian province rule and stuff. Oh, do I don't have his number anymore?
He's back in.
Oh, perfect.
He's back.
Hey,
Is that me or you guys?
What's that?
Is that me or you guys?
I think it's you.
Yeah.
I think, but you just like dropped in freeze framed in the worst possible situation.
You probably got like a Mountie just stealing your hotspot right now.
It could be.
I'm just kidding. I'm just messing. I got all the Canadian jokes you could think of, dude. I played hockey a bunch up in Canada. I played for some Canadian teams growing up, so I got all the Canadian jokes in the world. So it won't be the last one tonight, I'm sure.
Yeah, I believe it.
Did you play that random sidebar? Andy and I like to bring up hockey now and then on this show, but did you grow up playing hockey at all?
Yeah, of course I did.
I figured because, every kid in Canada has to play hockey at least for a couple of years. But
Nice.
there you go. I haven't touched the ice in, good gosh, probably 2 years. It's been too long.
The last time I skated was like 2 weeks before COVID hit. I was supposed to hop on a bar league team, and that shut it all down. I haven't skated since. I'd be probably terrible, god awful right now if I was to step on.
I got out on the pond a couple times this winter, but that was it. Normally I have a beer league team that I play on, and then we have a pickup team that I play on as well. So
yeah, Morgan's pond was sick. I was very jealous of that.
Yeah, he's done well with that.
Yeah, no kidding. He was like trash talking. What was it? What was the lake out west where they had the outdoor rink on?
Tahoe.
Tahoe, yeah. He was like trash talking Tahoe. He goes, "You can't touch this," like posting his rank up and talking crap to, like the NHL. Like, yeah, it was funny. But yeah, total sidebar. But beyond that, you were getting into kind of how you started fishing and who installed the passion in you.
Yeah, so my dad and I would go fishing a lot when I was a kid, but never out of like a bass boat. We never fished any tournaments, nothing like that. We had a little bow rider at the time. And then I was coming home from college, and we're at Bass Pro Shop, and we're looking around, and there was a Nitro there. It was a 17-foot X5. And he's like, why don't we just go fishing a bunch? I was like, yeah, let's do that. So we bought that X5 and just kind of went from there.
Andy, you ever go to Bass Pro and you see a boat and you're like, "Yeah, let's just start bass fishing"?
I walk into Bass Pro and I'm like, I should upgrade my Triton.
Honestly, at that point, it wasn't even bass fishing. It was just fishing.
So what sparked the passion for bass?
Yeah. So from there, it's just kind of grown, and we started fishing a few tournaments, and we did all right. And we thought, this is a lot of fun. Let's keep this going and see what'll happen.
Heck yeah, that's it. Yeah, I mean that's out of college, so you're probably you didn't really dive full fledged into fishing until you're what?
23.
21?
No, 23.
23. That's how old I am right now. I couldn't imagine just starting right now. That's crazy, dude.
Yeah.
Better late than never, I guess.
Yeah. So,
Canada usually is behind the rest of the world, anyways. I told you.
We're going to be last to get vaccinated, so I guess you're right.
Gonna have to delay my Simcoe trip, that's for sure.
Yeah, that'll be a while.
Well, yeah, they just announced that the border is now closed through April 21st.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it's going to be closed through the end of the year here shortly. Between you guys being last with the vaccination and the U.S. though being between 50 to 100,000 cases per day, I don't think that border's open anytime soon. So
no, neither do I. I know a lot of guys who've signed up for Northern Opens.
Mm-hmm.
They're hoping that they'll be able to cross, but I don't think maybe they'll get the Messina event in
They might have
September.
to put
In
their
the
jobs.
best case scenario, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
That's insane. Well, dude, offline real quick, I wanted to touch on this because I didn't know about it, so that I'm sure there's a bunch of people that didn't know about it as well. And that's that Canada, for most Canadian tournament trails that you explained, aren't allowed to use A-rigs in tournaments. Oh, did we lose him again?
I think so.
Oh, man.
So, sidebar here. We were talking offline, and I believe the Canadian rule is 4 hook points, but on an A-rig, but no A-rigs in a lot of smaller and big tournaments, which is, I think is kind of a neat rule. I love throwing the A-rig, but I personally, when it comes to tournament fishing, I feel like we should follow Bass or FLW Tour rules just so it's even playing field, because a lot of those guys dream and aspire to get to that point, but yeah, granted, a lot of us never will, but I feel like it's better to be prepared for that situation than not. A-rigs are fun to throw when you're in fun, but I razz on one of my buddies all the time about throwing. I'm like, you throw it in every tournament and it's going to burn you. And
You're not going to learn anything.
And it burns you all the time, because when you get in that situation down south and you're fishing a big tournament and it's a grass flipping lake, are you going to go flip an A-rig in grass?
Yeah. Yeah, Steven, we were touching upon how we were talking offline. We have Steven back, folks. And we're saying how you'd mentioned in Canada how you can use A-rigs, but on the majority of tournament trails in Canada, you cannot throw an A-rig at all. So similar to like the Opens or for bass. Why is that? Like, when did that kind of start? Why is that? Like, kind of go into detail, because I know we touched on it a little bit offline.
So I think you remember that event was won on Gunnersville with an A-rig, and they absolutely cleaned house.
Yeah.
And at that point, I think the doors were blown wide open. And then shortly after, Bass was like, okay, I don't think we can do this. They kind of put a squash to it there. And I think a lot of tournaments just kind of followed suit. They were like, if Bass doesn't think that this is allowed, then I think we should probably be doing the same thing. Personally, I don't see it being that much of an advantage. I mean, everyone can throw it. I don't see it as being much different than live scope. But if that's the rule, then that's what you have to do.
Yeah. I mean, personally, I've found bites that are better than 8 rigs for when you talk about bigger fish from like a 5-fish format. I could understand. And I guess in some cases, granted, I haven't thrown it all year round. There's very certain windows of the year that I'll throw it. But I think for the majority of the time, like Andrew was saying, how there's different scenarios. Like you get in a big grass bowl, where those fish are under mats or something, the A-rig's not going to play. Where it's, it's not a factor.
I think that there's probably more tournaments where it doesn't play than tournaments where it would.
I would agree. Yeah.
My whole thought process is, I think a lot of people, once they learn how to throw it, it's such an addictive bite that they don't know how to put it down.
That's it, yeah.
And it burns them more times than you win with it.
Yeah, I can see it.
I mean, it definitely has its place. I mean, look at, what Milliken just posted out was 60 pounds. I mean, granted, he was throwing like a gigantic double chandelier. Still badass in its own right. But like, I mean, the thing, it obviously is a presentation that no other bait is capable of doing, and the bite on it is an absolute riot.
Yeah.
But I still think that, like you said, Andy, and Steven, you guys mentioned, there's more tournaments where you can win on something else than that A-rig, and it's a really interesting argument. I just wanted to touch on it briefly. This is something that we're actually kind of brainstorming a panel to kind of discuss about, why it's illegal, go in depth about the A-rig and that whole thing. But it's an interesting topic to think about. But kind of moving on from that topic, obviously you're in Canada. I know, obviously, if anyone follows your Instagram, you obviously love smallmouth. I thought the same thing for Morgan Signini, who we've had on the show, but he quickly corrected me. He says, "No, I am 100% a largemouth guy." Are you the same, but just oh my gosh, I cannot talk today. Disguised by your smallmouth Instagram handle, or are you a largemouth guy too?
No, I'm definitely more of a smallmouth guy. Like if I had to choose one or the other, I'm picking smallmouth.
My dude.
Some of the guys will joke, like if I weigh in largemouth, some of the guys will joke that I was drop shotting a jig. Like that's how I caught those largemouth. But no, I really enjoy largemouth fishing. We've had some good finishes on largemouth. Just last year, I had Bay of Quinte. I had like almost 20 sack green.
That's tough to do there too.
Yeah, Bay of Quinte used to be like a really, really fun fishery for numbers. 15 pounds was easy to come by, but it's gotten a lot tougher in the last couple of years.
So, as a smallmouth fisherman, I know you joked about drop shotting a jig. Is that where your strength's at? Is just drop it on smallmouth?
No, I'd say it's pretty versatile. I like I'll drop shot if that's the bite, but I'll throw a tube, I'll throw a Ned rig, like I'll throw a crankbait, I'll throw whatever the situation calls for, basically.
Is there a preference?
Do I have a preference?
Yeah, what you're throwing, what you're catching them on?
Well, whichever one's going to get me paid.
Fair enough. It's a really good answer. Touche.
On any given like smallmouth tournament, there's 11 spinning rods rigged in my boat, and depending on the conditions and the day, will depend on which ones come out.
I'd say you take like 5 Southern boys on the Elite Series, and that's probably more spinning rods than they all own combined.
Very, very possible.
It's just funny to think about. You hear some of these guys talk about how they grew up throwing casting rods, and they're like, "Yeah, I didn't own a spinning rod till I was like 30." And I was like, "What?"
This thing.
They're upside down, real in reverse. Oh, that's too funny.
Because like my first reel that I ever used was a spinning reel. When I went to a casting reel, I bought left-hand retrieves. It just seemed normal, so everything I do is left-hand retrieve.
I'm the same way, but righty, and people call me weird for it.
You know, I'm right-handed as well. I don't switch hands.
Huh.
Yeah, I tinker with both. So I think I'm actually switching back to left-handed reels as I buy new reels. I'm gonna slowly shift them back to left-handed reels, except for when I'm winding. Like if I'm chatterbaiting or throwing a square bill or crankbait, I'll still reel with the right. For whatever reason, it feels funny to me to reel baitcaster lefty. But if I'm like flipping a jig or I'm blade baiting or jerk baiting or throwing a topwater, I like to make like the main motion of the rod with my right hand and reel lefty. I'm weird.
It's like playing hockey with a straight stick.
Yeah.
Like Sidney Crosby of fishing. Yeah, I don't know, dude. I'm weird like that. Like I'm right hand dominant, but like if I try to work a jerkbait with my right hand, I can't do it. I cannot do it for the life of me. Don't know what it is. It's what?
I struggle. I'm right hand dominant. I struggle to fish a jerkbait reeling right handed. I almost overemphasis, like put an overemphasis on the rod as I'm working the bait to make up for, I don't know, it's a mental thing.
I think it's weird too, because like I played lacrosse growing up, and I got pretty good at being ambidextrous, like being able to do lefty what I could righty. But like I try to reel with my left hand on a spinning rod, and I feel like the dumbest dude on the planet. I just feel like nothing works, and like I don't know. It's just the most awkward looking and feeling thing that I've ever experienced. So I'm just like everything is right-handed. I don't know. It's a weird thing to like kind of dabble into, because you've heard. I remember growing up and obviously trying to learn about fishing, and you hear guys that say, they have kind of like Andy, what we were talking about, where they'll reel right-handed on their moving baits, but like obviously if they're right-hand dominant, they're pitching and like they're punching sticks like that they'll be left-handed because they want to pitch with their right hand because they feel more accurate. But it's like, dude, if I crank on one and I'm like struggling to like reel with my left hand when you really need to be on par at that time, I was like, I'd feel like a dummy. I lose a lot of fish. So I kind of just forced myself to learn to pitch to my left arm.
No, I could never do it. Everything, like the rod is always in my right hand, no matter what I'm doing.
Back to the start here. When I first started bass fishing with like bait casters, I actually reeled everything with my left hand. And I slowly progressed to right hand for certain things. And then eventually everything became right-handed because it was so hard to find certain reels and left-handed like 10 years ago, 8 years ago when I was going. And virtually like the only reels you could buy lefty were super expensive Shimano reels or Abu Garcia Silver Maxes. So it was like you either paid $700 for a lefty or $49.99. And I wanted that middle. So I forced myself to learn how to fish righty. And there's some techniques. I'm like, man, when I'm out in Lake Erie and I'm fishing blade bait or whatever, I'm like, I really wish I had a left-handed reel right now because I'd be way more comfortable.
Yeah, that's where my late start was kind of helpful. I never had that. There was always left and right-handed reels, so I never realized like I never had to grow up fishing a right-handed reel.
Fair.
Being a smallmouth guy, I'm assuming you're probably an offshore guy. So I'm assuming you're big with electronics.
Yeah, but to be honest, like if I can catch them shallow, I'd rather fish shallow.
Fair enough. So are you a Panoptics dude yet?
Sorry?
Are you a Panoptics guy yet?
Yeah, so I've had I had a PS30 on my boat in 2015. So I've been playing with Panoptics for a long time.
Man, all right. Sheesh, he's big time in us right now. He's one of the first people to get Panoptics. All right.
Might be the first one in the Great North.
To be honest, though, it has not been used to its full potential, like for a lot of those years.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm sure.
First, or the original version of it in like 2015 wasn't that good.
No,
that's what I heard.
It looked like just big blobs on the screen.
It was still kind of cool that you could see what was going on, but it didn't provide a whole lot more than your 2D. If you have your 2D dialed in at the front, you would kind of get to see like a little bit ahead, but not a whole lot. It wasn't. I mean, now that there's live scope, that's a whole new game compared to the PS30 that I had back then.
Right. How much is it kind of like? I'm always curious by this because a lot of guys talk about how, the Panoptics has changed the way I fish and all that jazz. But like, how much of your day is staring at that thing?
It all just like the A-rig, it depends on what you're doing. Like if I'm up shallow, I don't even turn it on.
Right.
But
fair.
if you're out deep, a lot of the times when you're fishing out deep, you're like before Panoptics, you're looking at 2D sonar anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So to look at something that's now showing you ahead of the boat isn't really that much different.
Fair point.
You're just more effective than you were before.
I think one of my favorite parts about Panoptics and the way you can set it up is you can actually see slightly behind the boat depending on the angle you have. So you have your trolling motor down, the way the cone faces, you can actually see back like 15, 20 feet behind you as well as in front of, so you can almost tell if you're really dialed into it where those fish are and make appropriate casts. I think there's a lot of disadvantage that people don't really realize what you can do is that you can look behind and forward, and a lot of people just look straight down.
Yeah. You remember you were asking earlier in the year if I go pike fishing with a jig kind of thing. Well, one of the things we do, like Simcoe has a lot of perch. So early in the year, that's one of the first things I'll target is perch. And when we go out there at the end of April, start of May, they're grouped up. And as the season goes on, those schools start to disperse and they start to get smaller and they start to get a little harder to target. But with that Panoptics, I literally can just stay on top of that school. I just turn the head of my trolling motor and I know exactly which direction that school of perch has gone. There's no more guessing. Before you would fan cast around the boat and hope that you pick the school back up to know which way to go. But
Yeah, you'd have to hop on the big motor, start graphing around again just to find them.
Yeah.
Then you're probably scared them off again with the big motor by the time you put down.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool, I think.
Yeah. It's wicked, that thing. It really is. I mean, it's now has its own name for how you use it, like sniping. I'm sure you've heard about that with like what Walters did on Fork. Then it's now been titled sniping with a jerkbait. So it's kind of sick, honestly. But I mean, that's Andrew. You guys utilize that on Erie. Essentially, we're sniping to an extent.
I think we sniped every one of our fish with a drop shot when we put 29 pounds on the scale in that Douglas Derby. We saw every one of them eat it.
Yeah, it's so sick.
Like you can almost like when you're in a certain depth and it's so dialed in, you can tell which fish are what like size, and you know which ones to pitch at, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then they react to your bait. It's like, oh my gosh, he's gonna eat it. And then you just wait, and you're like, oh, there he is. That's the coolest part to me.
Yeah.
So
I feel like for some people that haven't gotten conditioned to it, they might miss fish at first because they see it, the blob obviously make contact on screen, so they probably set the hook until they realize, hey, dummy, just because you can see the fish on the graph, you probably should still wait for that bite.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I'm more speaking from my first experience using Panoptics.
I think the one area of smallmouth fishing that it's going to impact the most is suspended fish. Suspended smallmouth, and specifically ones that are chasing schools of bait high in the water column, have always been the hardest to target. And I think that Panoptics is going to make that a whole lot easier.
for sure.
Right. I mean, it's easier to target them, but probably still just as difficult just to find them, right? Or are they kind of roaming in a general area, or is it kind of just wide open where you're just kind of running around with it, like a chicken with a head cut off trying to find them?
No, they have to be relating to a little bit of something. Like there has to be, like if you're fishing a great big bowl and they're just chasing bait in that bowl, then it becomes more of like a needle in a haystack. But if there are certain things that the bait are relating to, then you have a better chance at it.
Right. All right. I know those are Cisco chasers you guys have up there.
Yeah. So like Simcoe, we have herring, we have emerald shiner. So it could be anything really, but it depends on the lake as well.
Right. Simcoe is such an interesting lake to me because I've been told like when you find them, you're on them for like 20 minutes and then they're gone, and then you're on them for 20 minutes, then you're gone. Is that the case for you as well, or?
No, I wouldn't necessarily say that.
He's just dialed all day long.
No, it's hard to get on them, and they disappear quick. But like once you kind of have some areas figured out, you'll know pretty quick whether they're there or not.
You can kind of be like, all right, these fish are gone. They're probably moving to here. You go there, then they're there, and they leave. Okay, they're probably moving to, okay. So it's more of a kind of an experience thing, getting to really know the lake, and you kind of just get in tune with the fish.
Like, yeah. And like summer to fall, like it's a lot different too. Fall, it's even harder to find them. And then they're conditioned, they're smart fish. They're not easy to catch any time of the year, really.
Right.
They are giant, so
yeah,
keep going back.
Yeah, oh my gosh, I'm so jealous.
They're nothing like Erie or an Ontario or St. Lawrence fish. Those are dumb fish compared to some of the other smallmouth fisheries we have.
Yeah. You get like there's either you don't, like if you see one, either you can't catch it or you get very good at figuring out how to catch fish that don't want to bite.
Right.
So interesting. So one thing that Andy brought to my attention that I had no idea about you, and I know we've spoken before over social and such, is that you were in the Pan Am Championship, which I had zero idea about. I know that was a while ago, but I'm still just genuinely curious because I've seen it and I think I've watched a couple guys have videos on it, but I never even knew about it, how it works, and kind of like I would love to hear your take on it and your experience, if you don't mind chatting about it.
Yeah, sure. So I guess it would have been 2017. Bob Azumi called, and he was like, "I have to put together a Canadian team to go fish on Okeechobee. Or would you guys be interested in going?" And my dad and I said, "Well, we would like typically would go to Okeechobee every winter." So we said, "Well, of course, like we'll just make that our Okeechobee trip." So we got to go down and fish that event, and that was a lot of fun. I was actually really sick that whole event. I had a sinus infection, but we had a really tough day one. We made like 11 pounds, and then we boomed back on day two with like 18 or 19 pounds, and we finished fifth. So it was a fun event. But so that was kind of the start of the Pan Am for us, and then through that event, they said, "Well, Canada, like we want you to host one as well." Actually, sorry, Mexico hosted one first. So that one happened. Then there was a Mexican event that I didn't go to. Then the event on Franny in Cornwall. That was a lot of fun as well. I mean, you get to fish with, like, I fished against Wheeler, Scott Martin, John Cox, David Dudley, like Dustin Connell. There's a ton of good anglers. Mark Daniels, Belat. So it's a fun week. You guys all have, like, there's basically you all go to the same places for dinner and stuff like that during your official practice. So you're all kind of hanging out together at the same time. That Canadian event specifically was hectic in the sense that we fished 2 tournaments in the same day. So the first day of the tournament was canceled due to high winds. So instead of just having a one-day shootout, we went out at 7, weighed in at 11, went back out at 1, and weighed in at 4. So we fished 2 tournaments in the same day, and it was nuts. We had like a good pattern going in practice, and we pulled into our starting area. We had 23 pounds probably by 9 o'clock. Then we went around to another spot. I picked up one more. It was like 5.5 or something like that. We ended up weighing 24.5 in the first half of the event. That had us in second place. And then the afternoon half, we went back to the same area. In the first hour, we had a whole pile of small fish and 1 4-pounder to show for it. And I had a bunch of deep water that was backup. And at that point, I pulled the plug on the shallow ones, and I went and fished deep, and we only had 17 pounds for the second half of the day. I think we finished 5th overall or something like that. But it was hectic. When you only have 4 hours to fish a tournament,
it's tough.
Yeah, you really live and die by your decisions. There's no recovering.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. So you literally would you'd blast off at 7, and at 11 you'd come in, weigh in your fish, let your fish go, and repeat that in the afternoon.
Yeah.
That's kind of weird, but kind of cool.
It was crazy.
It
was like 6 degrees. It was rainy a little bit. Like it was cold, but like you were fired up because you're catching big smallmouth, and there's a lot on the line.
I mean, I guess it was cold, but I was going to say, like, it probably made you feel better, though, fish care-wise, because you didn't have them in the live wells for that long.
Yeah, well, when the water's that cold, too, they typically do well.
Right, yeah. I had no idea it was 6 degrees. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah,
well,
it was like
6 degrees Celsius.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, it's still tough. What is that, like 38, 40, something like that?
It's still chilly. Still pretty cold. Was that the one that was that the event that John Cox fished for the United States?
He was there, yeah. Belat and Mark Daniels won that one. Like they came first overall.
Right. So I think John Cox was on the team. I was just saying because I was just gonna make fun of him, saying he was probably cold as heck, unable to fish because he's got all that Florida blood in him. And he goes up to Canada and freezes his tail off.
Yeah. Largemouth fishing too. Then I don't think he had graphs on his boat, so
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think there's a story about that because he's like, yeah, I don't have graphs on my boat. So we had like, I think BLAC called him and said, hey, dude, we're on him. Come up here. So he's like, just kind of like fan casting around because he doesn't have any graphs, doesn't know where he's going.
That dude's wild.
Yeah. Because so each country can have 8 boats in the tournament, and you can communicate with your teammates during the event. So if you're on them, you can text or call one of the other teams and be like, "There's a bunch of fish over here," and like share spots if you want to.
Yeah, it's interesting dynamic as well.
Yeah.
I think that's what they did in Mexico because I watched a Scott Martin video and they were like catching like 8 to 12 pounders on a mega school cranking, and they're like called the other team, were like, hey, come over here, and they all just started mashing on their face.
Yeah, so that was the event after Okeechobee, before Cornwall. And then we were supposed to go to South Carolina last November and fish Worlds, but COVID obviously canceled that. So that's hopefully this November. So I'm fingers crossed that the border's open by then and I can get down there and go chase some herring eaters.
Yeah, what lake is that going to be at?
On Lake Murray.
Lake Murray? You're going to have to scoot over to Santee for a day or two. It's only like 30 minutes away.
Yeah.
Go after some. I don't know how it is in November, but
I'm sure the water's drawn down, and if you're on them, you're on them. It's typical fall fishing.
Yeah, if it's drawn down, I probably actually wouldn't go and risk ruining your boat.
Yeah.
Dude, that's okay.
I'd like
total
to keep my hull.
Yeah, probably a good choice.
So little sidebar. There was a Mexico Pan Am event at the start of 2020, and my daughter was due to be born while it was going on, so I opted not to go, and my dad chose to go. So they flew down there and they went and they fished down on I think it was Guerrero, and he ended up winning the event. But on the way back in on the second day of the tournament, they launched in some little river, and I guess there used to be a bridge across the river, and there were pilings just under the surface of the water. And their boat driver. So when you fish one of these events, if you're from out of country and you fly down, the host country provides boats for those teams. So they had a guy from Mexico in his boat driving the boat, and so they were sitting in like the passenger seat in the middle of the boat. And he ended up clipping one of these cribs, and he tore the bottom off of the Ranger and completely ripped the Merc off. And they were super lucky to get into weigh-in because they were one of the only. There was 2 teams that day that had 5 fish limits. They were one of them to win the event.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Good gosh.
Yeah.
Oof.
Ripped the motor completely off.
Yeah. The cable. The cable was the only thing holding the motor on. They thought it was completely gone. They once they pulled it out of the water. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Good grief.
It must have been like right by that bridge for them to make it.
Yeah. Yeah, they were like real close to where that was, so that was lucky. They were able to trolling motor over. I'm not sure if they actually put fish into like they transfer boats or if they were able to just trolling motor in, but yeah, it was a pretty scary moment.
Jeez. Well, glad he's safe and all right.
Yeah.
I can only imagine like having major injuries in Mexico, what would happen to you in a hospital down there.
Yeah.
Good grief. Well, yeah, I think it's probably good too because I imagine the motor like shut off as it like obviously broke off the boat because like I'm picturing like Bill Dance trolling motor on the loose but with a motor. Who knows what could happen there?
Oh, jeez.
That's scary, man. No thanks. No, thank you. But oh man, I was thinking about something else here. Yeah, I was when you went for a sidebar, I was totally in a sidebar talking about stumps, and I was like, we were talking about my trip down to Texas, and that was my first experience with submerged timber, and like Destin would hit these stumps as we're trolling motor around these the flats that have submerged trees. I almost flew out of the boat probably 20 times throughout the whole week because he hit one. He goes, "Oh crap!" And I'd be like holding on to the motor like in the back, not trying to fall in. So you're just like you're fishing like in almost like a squatted position, so you're ready at all times when you hit a stump. Like those things stop you right in your tracks. Like I'm surprised he didn't break like a trolling motor shaft because he hit one twice. I think that was like straight on. The whole boat like came to a screeching halt, and then like slingshot you back from that flex of his trolling motor. It's no joke down there.
No. So we have 2 small Kawartha lakes that are maybe like 15, 20 minutes from my house. And both of them are flooded from the Trent system. And they are full of stumps. And it's easy to do exactly what you're talking about there.
Oh, man.
They're stumps in 4 feet of water instead of like 30 feet of water like they have down in Texas.
It's crazy.
And they're not marked either, so you have to be careful where you're running, right?
Oh, yeah, you don't put the boat on Pat and Mitchell.
Fair enough.
Well, like for the most part, like your 2D, even when you're running, for the most part, it can pick up some timber or say like grass or something like that. Obviously very faint, but you can kind of get a general idea. So we're running the channels like on Fork, and you can just see like running over these giant trees, and they're like only missing the motor by like a couple feet, and you're just sitting there holding on like, please don't hit one, please don't hit one.
That's crazy because it's literally just timber everywhere.
Yeah,
like, it flooded like a ravine. And
yeah. Destin had he had gotten a book that he bought. He didn't tell me where he found it, but basically he bought a book that like kind of told the whole history behind Fork, and it's basically like this old. I don't know if it's a valley or if it was almost like a neighborhood, because he was talking of like, oh, like this is like an old pond. Like guys used to go fish. There was a pond right here, and they flooded over the pond, and how like apparently historically that pond had really big fish in it. So like that part of the lake has really big fish. It's just kind of weird, like the whole history of Fork. It's actually really cool. I want to get the book to read the whole thing, but like it shows you like old not Google Maps, but like old like pictures of what Fork was before it had water. Dude, it is nuts.
Yeah,
it is crazy,
and it's super deep too in spots, isn't it? I believe.
I'm trying to recall. Like I know we saw like 40, 50 foot at one point. I think I could be. Don't quote me, but it was pretty dang deep for the most part.
Yeah. A lot of those like southern reservoirs have a lot of cool structure down there.
What is the one that literally has like a town below it?
Yeah.
Is that like Lanier or something, or am I crazy?
I think Murray has a bunch of old buildings and stuff down there.
Andy, I think you were talking about that a while ago. There's literally like towns, like houses and stuff below the lake.
Toledo Bend has a town underneath it, I believe, because John was winning housing foundations a few years ago when he won his Elite Series there. But yeah, a lot of those southern reservoirs, they flooded valleys that had towns and buildings in them, and you can find them as you scan. I almost want to say just about all of them do somewhere.
I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, it was Toledo Bend. You were right. Uh-oh. Are we losing? Oh, there he is. It was Toledo Bend because Zach Hall, our buddy, he's from Louisiana. He had mentioned how you can go and literally drop on houses. And I was like, what are you talking about, drop on houses? They didn't think he was talking about fishing for a second. And he goes, no, dude, like there's literally like communities below the lake. It's just nuts. That must be like a really weird place. Like if you didn't know that and you're graphing over it and you're like, dude, did you know there's a house down there? I think it's like Atlantis or something crazy. A southern Atlantis. That's TV show worthy.
Yeah.
But Andy, you have anything else left for Steven before we let him go and hit him with our last question?
So I guess what are your summer plans in Canada this year for tournaments, since you can't really fish anything stateside? So you have the FLW Cup. Is that on Bay of Quincy again? And then what do you have after that?
So I have Bronzeback Cup will be on Simcoe, so I'll fish that. I think it's called the Canadian Open. It's a Pro-Am. That'll probably be on Simcoe again, so I'll likely do that. Quinny Cup. And there's going to be I'll fish Thousand Islands Open, Renegade one. That one's a lot of fun. I love going out there. And CSFL has a river event going out of, it's not Kingston, they're going out of, I think they're going out again in Aquay, but it's river only, so I'll go fish that. Then Franny Cup in October, and hopefully I'll get down to Lake Murray in November. Then there'll be a bunch of other smaller tournaments mixed in there. So DT Power Sports is the marina that sponsors me. They have a Ranger dealer here in Ontario. They're sponsoring 4 events for they're called DT Opens, and the highest placing team from that gets to go fish the Johnny Morris Classic, a new one that he's setting up. So we'll likely fish all 4 of those and take a shot at that as well.
Nice.
Yeah, dude. When you, if hopefully the border's open, so when you come down here, we can obviously hit the water. And if you're going down to Murray, hopefully we can hit somewhere around New York for that fall bite, because that should be pretty good around then.
Actually get to toss in the rig when it matters.
Yeah. Heck yeah, dude. That would be a lot of fun, without a doubt. But Andy, anything else? And then we'll hit him with the last question.
No, go ahead and hit him.
All right. So, Stephen, our last question, and you might already know what it is. You might know what's coming to you. But if you could sit down, have a beer and a steak with 3 different individuals, they don't have to be presently alive. They don't have to be in the fishing industry. If you could sit down with 3 individuals, have a beer, have a steak, and pick their brain, who are you going to invite?
3 individuals.
Could be anybody. It doesn't have to be fishing.
All right. Let's go Roland Martin. I've met him a few times, but not enough to talk to him a lot.
Right.
Say Doug Gilmore. You know who that is?
Why am I thinking of
Doug Gilmore's a hockey player.
I know why I'm thinking of. Who am I thinking of? I'm thinking of Mike Madonna. I don't know why that's the first face that went to my mind when I thought of Doug Gilmore. But he was a Sabres player, wasn't he?
Doug Gilmore was the
Sabres. You know what I'm thinking about? I'm thinking of Alex Mogilny, not Doug Gilmore.
Doug Gilmore was a Leaf.
Was he? Didn't he play for the Sabres too? Or is that another Doug Gilmore?
Old 1990s.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm questioning my hockey history now. Good gosh. I'm going to have to do my research on Doug Gilmore, actually. Let me write that down before I forget. Okay, I'm sorry. Carry on.
You're right. He did play for the Leaf. And he played for the Sabres, so we're both correct.
There you go.
So why Doug Gilmore?
It's one of the best Leafs we ever had.
Okay, touche. Better than Sundin?
Yes.
Better than Austin Matthews?
In a different way, yeah.
Fair enough.
Who's
number 3? Who is number 3?
Number 3. Let's go Aaron Martens. I'd like to pick his brain. I know it works in different ways.
He's an interesting cat.
You better have enough beer and steak for 4 days if you want to have an hour conversation with that dude, because that dude can talk.
I believe it.
I love it too. You don't have to say anything. You can ask one question, and you might have 10 other questions, and you'll have them all answered by just asking the one question.
Yeah. I think there's a YouTube video out there of Aaron Martin setting up a drop shot setup, and it's 38 minutes long, and 35 minutes of it is rambling.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he. I think it was Straycast that he went on a long time ago. Not a long time ago, a few months back before his procedures, and basically they asked him a question. And I swear it was probably 35, 40 minutes before they asked another question. They're like, "This is just the Aaron Martin show. We're just gonna put Aaron Martins on the screen. We're gonna call it a night. You can call us when he's done." That dude is awesome. He's the perfect conversationalist, because if you're a person that likes to sit down and listen, I feel like he's the perfect person to talk to.
Yeah. It's just so much Andy, you could soak in.
Insane amount. He's probably the biggest tinkerer in bass fishing. I would say by far.
Up there.
Andrew, if we ever get the honor and privilege of having Aaron Martens on the show, we need to start it at noon so that we might be done by 9 o'clock.
Fair. That's fair. We call the Aaron Martens up on.
It's a 24-hour episode. Oh man, that's too funny. But Steven, for real, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to obviously come on the show. And I apologize ahead of time for the fishing pictures while you can't get out and target bass. But I would invite you over, but unfortunately, we can't get you over the border. But we'll just meet halfway on Erie. Sneak you in a rod locker or something. But
just hope no one's out patrolling that day.
Or watching us with like infrared satellites and whatever else they have up there on Erie now, tracking boat movements.
Yeah,
that's insane.
It was crazy. Last year, I want to say it was in June. Little sidebar here, real fast before you go. They actually had like an ice cutter Coast Guard boat stationed off of like the buoy channel area for freighters coming in and out. But they would literally drop in like buoy rafts and had a helipad on it. And they were launching a Coast Guard boat, and he was flying up and down the lake with these rafts, doing like random patrols of the border, so boaters wouldn't come across.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and it was like a 60-foot ice cutter. It was the biggest ship I've ever seen on Erie besides the freighters. Like, you go out to the ocean, what are you doing out here? Sorry, it was a 160-foot ice cutter.
Yeah.
Good God. So if they're using that satellite stuff, then just go out in the middle of the lake by the border so that their eyes are on you and just moon them.
Well,
Just
And then go back. Bye.
I remember that vividly, though, because there's a rock pile in that general vicinity where it was, and it's very close to the border. I'm sure you know where it is, Stephen. But I wanted to fish it because it's one of those highway areas, and I was like, they're going to be there, and I'm running out there, and I'm like, good God, this giant boat is right where I want to fish. And I was like, I don't want to get too close to it because I don't want to get boarded and stop, but I want to fish there. So I got like as close as I could, and at the last thing I was like, yeah, I'm not even gonna risk it. It was I would have been like 30 feet off of it. Not worth it.
Yeah, no, not worth that one.
No.
You're gonna lose that bumper boat battle.
Yeah, probably. And not to mention, as I kept getting closer, I think more guys came out and were watching me what I was doing. Mm-hmm. So at that point, I just kind of pulled off. I was like, yeah, I'm not going to go. I was so mad. Yeah.
That's too funny. Well, Steven, dude, we appreciate you coming on the show. And obviously, hopefully the border's open so we could connect this year. Obviously, not from a computer, but obviously in person, get out and fish. But again, huge thank you for taking the time to come on the show. We appreciate it, dude.
No problem, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, have a good night.
Guys, you too.
Take care. See ya. Good dude. It's always good when we get the Canadian boys on the show because you always know it's going to be a good one. There's always some laughs in there. But we got to get Morgan back on the show here again too because we didn't. When I had Morgan on the show, I think it was before episode 100, so I don't think you were my co-host yet.
Oh man, if you had Morgan on a show with me, it would be wild because he'd probably just dog me the whole time. So
all right, so we're having Morgan on next week.
That's fine. Yep. And I can almost guarantee like the stories that will come up. One will be the time he performed surgery on my hand. The one time we went fishing in April and just mashed on him. There's a couple other ones. Oh, I taught him largemouth fishing around Buffalo. There's all kinds of cool stuff that we have stories on.
Yeah, he is a green fish head. He likes those dang things.
Or here's one. There's a tiny little tributary that dumps into Lake Ontario, and a couple of years ago the water was super high. And when I tell you, it's like on normal years, it's the width of a desk, so maybe like 2 feet wide. It was 4 foot deep and just wide enough to get his Legend Alpha 211 into this creek. And we got way up this creek that I used to steelhead fish because the water was so high. And I was like, we might be the only boat that has ever been in here. The fishing sucked. He snagged a carp. But, I mean, it's really cool. It's like 8 foot deep and all cattails that you can flip back into as far as possible. And
How'd you turn around?
Oh, you can turn around. It's wide enough once you get in.
Oh, but you're saying the entrance to get in.
Yeah, the mouth is literally like this wide on a normal year, but it was wide enough for a 95-inch beam to get in with like maybe 6 inches on each side and current, like raging current out into the lake.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And he snagged like a 35-pound carp in the belly.
One of the guys I haven't actually spoken with him in a while. But his name's Nate Woislaw. He's a guy I won my first tournament with, and we kind of we fish a lot with each other. And basically, there was one day where fishing sucked so bad, but the carp were all schooled up and going crazy. So we're like, we just took lipless crankbaits and had fun just snagging carp all day.
Live, but
yeah, we're like, screw it. Let's go snag carp. So then we would joke afterwards if we were on a slump, not catching anything, you want to go snag some carp.
Yeah. It's funny. There's one little reservoir I like to fish, and there's a big population of like 30 to 40-pound carp in it. And I was flipping a tree, and I felt a thump, and I set the hook into like a 35-pound carp in a tree on a jig.
Oh, and dude, that's insane.
Oh, I couldn't do anything. I would get them up and splash and right back down. Like, oh my gosh, my rod's gonna break. Over top, in between two limbs, that maybe like a 3 or 4 pound largemouth I could get out. No, I just eventually like popped it off. But I was like, oh, that was so crazy.
Yeah, no thanks. Good grief.
I just remember setting the hook and getting like tugged into the water because this carp had no idea what happened to it.
Good. That's insane, dude. Well, for the folks, if you guys are still listening this late in the show, we appreciate you. And if you guys are interested in coming on the show, joining us for episode 200, reach out to us over social, email, whatever. Comment on this video that say, hey, I want to join you dummies. Just let us know. We would love to have a bunch of different people on the show. We can get you on for 5-10 minutes, or maybe we can experiment and see how many people we can pack into this StreamYard stream. We'll have to figure that out. I don't even know the maximum number. But we'll make a fun night of it, and it'll probably be a not-so-serious show, but it's going to be more of a celebration, a fun night for episode 200, which I think is a really big milestone for Andrew and I, especially being 100 that we've been working on this show, this platform together. We've been working pretty hard.
A night show, I think, the way it works out. Or no, we'll be a Monday.
Will it be Monday?
Yeah, because 3 next week. Yeah, because we're at 196. So 3 next week, it'll be a Monday night.
7, 8, 9. Yeah. I'm trying to remember. Are we free? Are we doing the Sabine show the week prior or 2 weeks prior? Because remember, there was an open.
Probably the week prior, I think.
You know what we'll do? We'll keep it on a Monday. Maybe we'll just do 4 podcasts that week. Or just make. Oh no, you know.
Because Sabine doesn't technically count in our number log, I think.
No, so this the preview shows we haven't been counting in the numbers. We'll figure it out. It's not a big deal. Either way, to episode 200, whether it's on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, it does not matter. We would like to have it on a Monday or a Friday, not a Wednesday if possible, because I know a bunch of our folks probably listen to Straycasts, and I don't want to obviously overlap for Straycasts. I personally love tuning in for Straycasts. I usually will run out of a Wednesday show to go catch the tail end of theirs and then listen to the rest of it in the morning.
We could have a joint podcast, Straycast, and Serious Angler.
That's fine. Hey, Renwick and the boys can come on over. That's perfectly fine. That would be cool. But yeah, either way, folks, let us know if you want to join us. We'd love to have you. And then that's going to do it for me. Monday, we have Mr. Ty Ow. We're going to talk a bunch about barometric pressure, which he did a really good show on that with Josh Bertrand's podcast, Angler's Happy Hour. We're going to ask some different questions, outside the box questions when it comes to barometric pressure, and also talk about he was leading Smith Lake, the Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit event there. And I believe he caught all of his spotted bass on an S-Waver, which is pretty badass. So I'm excited to talk about that. And I think it's going to be a good show. Ty is super knowledgeable. It's going to be a fun one, so make sure you guys tune into it. But Andy, you got anything left for the folks before we sign off here?
Nah, can't wait to go fishing.
Yeah, wherever we decide to go fish on Sunday. Whatever we decide to do. But obviously, we're not going to hear you guys or be with you guys until Monday. So a huge shout out to our buddy Forrest Bucket. His birthday is this weekend. And Forrest is a good buddy of ours, really good fan and supporter of the show. So I think he's like 70 years old now or something like that. I don't know. Dude's an old fart.
You're like -7 and living his afterlife. So
who knows? He's just a crazy redneck from Louisiana that's stuck in New York. So, but happy birthday to you, Forrest. And hopefully it'll be a fun weekend getting out with him. But
heck yeah. Hopefully it all works out for Sunday. We still have to figure that out. So
yeah. We'll figure it out. And then if we film, we film. If we don't, we don't. But as always, folks, we'll see you guys on Monday.